All right, I did a little bit of a shift recently on the types of stuff I've been reading, even though I'm not going to forget about my sci-fi, my journey through the Dark Tower, which I am in. I'm about 100 pages into Wastelands. I'm also about 100 pages into Sailing to Sarantium with, as much as I loved The Lions of Al Rasan for just how good the writing is, holy smokes, this might be even better. I love it. I love everything about it, but we'll talk about that. So I've been also going through some, I want to read more stuff from the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, especially more fantasy. I've read a fair bit of the sci-fi from that time, even though like not a whole ton of it. Like a lot of Arthur C. Clarke, especially, but I'm starting to go through things, other things. And I picked up Roger Zelazny's Nine Princes in Amber. I got all of these. I've seen them around for a long time. And I got the set of these for $1 a piece. And so I saw a little video the other day. It popped up in my algorithm. That's the thing when you find new things, and I'm sure other people will relate to it when you're looking up top books to read, and someone will have this, and you'll see the same kinds of books on a lot of people's algorithm, and then you'll look at what other stuff they like, and then you'll find other things, and then that'll lead you to other things. That's exactly what happened here. And it was short, and so I decided to go right into it. So non-spoiler, I'm not going to talk about where it goes, but I do need to talk about some elements of this book. Now, I don't know if I love it or if I am completely indifferent to it, which is a weird thing to say. But it has a lot of the elements of things that I would really, really love. I just don't know if it's going to hold me for this many books, which, ultimately each of these is like less than 200 pages. And I think it's because at that time, the publishers wanted them to be nice and short so that they could be this small. And I just love smelling the mustiness of these old books, and I love holding them. The term pulp, like pulp fiction, comes from these types of books. And there are definitely some critiques that people would have with this type of thing, which is definitely a part of what happened here. But you can see why some of these series would also become a cult classic. So again, time will tell to see as I slot these things in if I start really, really caring about what is happening. Now, even some of the characters within the book seem to not care about the central plot, which is kind of an interesting thing to do. There are a few things that happen within this. It's almost like it's two different books. And you see that in other types of portal fantasies where they wake up in our world, or this person wakes up. It has the amnesia trope, which a lot of people wouldn't like that. But I mean, whatever. I can get past some of that. I can even get past weird writing if it has good ideas. But I should say it's this one, even though it's fantasy, it felt way more like reading an old science fiction novel or novella or whatever. In some ways, because it was big ideas that were meant to kind of challenge you a little bit and challenge your imagination. It's quite esoteric in some ways. But again, let me give you a non-spoiler sort of summary of what to expect if you go into this. Now, it starts off with this guy waking up with amnesia. He's in a hospital. He's been in a car accident. And he'll find that out early in the book. And he doesn't know who he is, but he doesn't like being there at the hospital. And so he wants to check out. They want to stop him from going. He doesn't want to take their narcotics or whatever they're going to give him. They're going to immunize him for whatever. Not immunize, but you know what I mean. He doesn't want that anymore. And so as he's leaving, he has a little bit of a scuffle, And turns out he's way stronger than the other people there. And that makes you kind of think, oh, he's I don't know, he's either really strong, or if you look at the cover of the book, you figure he's probably not from New York at all. He's either not from New York or he's going to go to this land, but turns out he's from this land called Amber. That's what the Amber series is. He doesn't want to be there in New York and doesn't know who he is, and a part of this book is figuring out who he is, what his mission in life is, or whatever, and it starts to unfold. It starts out very noir in 1970s. I'm the last of 8 kids, so you know, a lot of the stuff I grew up with, I had my friends who were enjoying stuff from like the 90s, and I was more, I liked the movies and things of my older siblings, and a lot of it came from the 70s, and a lot of the stuff that we were watching and reading kind of had that sort of pulpy element to it. I was reading a lot of comics, and you get to the end and you don't really get a satisfying conclusion, but it goes until next time. And this had that sort of ending where it's clearly, you know, you have to be in the mood for, like, you have to know what it is. It is so of its time, and it seems like all of these books would be more like 1 or 2 full novels of our day. But again, because they had to be small, you know, they're just what they are, and they have to hook you for the next one. And I love the covers. And anyway, it's got this very noir, smoky room 1970s. You know, they're always smoking in this vibe. At the start, he makes his way. He meets a sibling of his, a long-lost sibling of where he's from, and they make their way into Amber. Now, Amber is it's either a planet or it's a city, but it is the center of the universe. It's like the true center. It has the multiverse idea in this. And our Earth is Shadow Earth. And there are the different other parallel shadows that are a reflection of Amber. So he's from this initial place, and he's been on this Shadow Earth, and other siblings are on there. They have big palaces or big headquarters, like mansions and stuff. But they all understand what's going on. He doesn't. And a part of it takes a tone shift away from this 1970s, and it goes into ye olde English sorts of language in a lot of ways, and he kind of has elements of both, where he's cynical and sarcastic in some ways, and then he also has this ye olde kind of element to him, where from his old life, and basically, as the name suggests, 9 Princes of Amber, he is one of these princes, and you get to know a lot of these other princes in the story. And there's also, I think, 9 princes and 4 princesses, and their dad, I think his name was Oberon or Omeron. He is basically like a godlike king of this center of the universe. He's gone missing. He's either dead or missing, and basically other princes and princesses of this family want to vie for control of the throne. And that's basically what we're doing in the first book here, for the first, you know, for what is it, 180 pages or whatever it ends up being. And the whole time I'm thinking, do I care? Do I care who's on the throne? They clearly care. And they have this power vacuum, and some of them are backing this person and some are backing this person. And I didn't know if I really cared, even though I knew what kind of thing I was getting into, so I was on for the ride. It goes from kind of actiony section to actiony section to sci-fi kind of mind-bendy section very quickly. It doesn't take a lot of time in between. You know, he could find himself at like a shack with someone living there, and it would say, and I lived with him for 4 months and got to know him, and he was really nice, and da-da-da-da-da. And then he's off to the next thing. It doesn't really waste time. I mean, that could be a critique that it doesn't spend time doing that, because that would be amazing character building. But for what it is, it's just moving us along to the next thing. But anyway, the dad, this Oberon, has this godlike kind of blood within him, which has spread to his children, and now they are almost like these like demigod sorts of people at the center of everything. And within their challenge for the throne, they might go to one of these shadow parallel worlds and conscript and train these other types of humanoids or otherwise whatever creatures to fight this battle. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of, again, I don't know if I loved it or if I just thought, well, that was kind of fun, but I don't really care. But I am excited to go to the next one. It has these tarot cards that you find really early on, which has like a card, reminds me of Malazan, but it has like an image of each of these princes and princesses, and it kind of gives them a way of like communicating. George R. Martin raves about this book specifically, which I think that's interesting. And this writer, I think he has another one called like Lord of Light or Lord of Darkness. One of the two, I think, or Lord of Shadow. Who knows? As a standalone. I might go to that one soon-ish. It was interesting. It was an interesting book. It had a lot of interesting ideas in it, and for that reason, it did feel a little bit like sci-fi, but it was clearly fantasy again. But this is one of those times where it felt really close between the two genres. And it had an interesting conclusion where I thought I started to get more excited about the series to come. It had one of those until next time sorts of moments. And I hope I start to care more about the characters. It did introduce the main ones that I think we want to know about within this family, and some of the different it did that quite well, and I can see why maybe George R. Martin got inspired in some ways in that way. It was very much this power vacuum sort of story, even though it was pulpy to its core. And so anyway, I totally understand where people probably have critiques for this, but I also understand why people would just love it. So I'm going to continue with it. At least they're short, and I don't know when I'm going to get to the next one, which is this one. Check out these covers, by the way. The Guns of Avalon. Some of these are really cool looking. So anyway, what should I read next? Again, I'm currently reading Sailing to Sarantium by Guy Gavriel Kay, and I'm just loving it. I'm loving it so much. So much, but I don't want to forget some of these other ones. I do have my eye on Lord Fowl's Bane soon. But I do need to finish. I can't keep putting off the Wastelands because I love the idea of the books of the Dark Tower, but I don't know. I don't think I've cooled on it. I just need to get to it. I can't keep putting it off because I've been going through way too slow with that one. I might need to focus on that while I'm also doing the Sailing to Sarantium. So anyway, I will talk to you guys at some point. Tell me what I should add to my TBR in terms of some of these old books back here. I got some Michael Moorcock, and I've said in other videos. Whatever. Talk to you later. Bye.